Welcome everybody to this council meeting, Thursday 29th of August. Tēnā koutou katoa. I'll start with the council blessing. Ia mātou e whiriwhiri ana, ina take ke mua ia mātou araro. E pono ana mātou ka kaha tonu ki te whakapau mahara huapai, mōna hapori e mahi ne mātou. Me kaha hoki mātou katoa kia whaihua kia tō tika tā mātou mahi, mā te maia te tiru whakamua me te hihiri. Ka taia te arahi I roto I te kotahitanga me te aroha. As we deliberate on the issues before us, we trust that we will reflect positively on the communities we serve. Let us all seek to be effective and just so that with courage, vision and energy, we provide positive leadership in a spirit of harmony and compassion. Welcome everybody to this meeting today. We've got almost a full house with our deputation this morning, which we'll get to in a moment, and also some members from our business community who will be helping us with our economic development strategy and new operating model item. So thanks to everybody who's come along today. Some of us are still a little bit tired from our community and Good Sorts Awards last night. Congratulations to all the finalists and recipients. It was just amazing to see the incredible work that goes on in our community. Not just the winners, but these long lists of some of the organisations I'd never heard of before I read their applications for the awards. So just, huge thanks to everyone in the community who works to make things better. So apologies. Do we have any apologies? No apologies today. A full house, as I said. Any declarations of interest? Okay, we have no petitions, no hearings today. So we'll move straight on to our deputations. I'm just going to move this ahead of public speaking time, seeing as we have our deputation ready at the table. And I'll let you introduce yourselves, and you can just take your time to make a presentation for us. And then there'll be some questions at the end, I presume, and we have something to look at in the council chamber today, I understand.
Good morning. Okay, I hope I'm just at a good distance with the mic. I'm not really used to this. So, Atamarie, on behalf of Voices of the Future and the Ramati Technology Center, thank you for having us this morning. My name is Anne-Marie Doucet, and I have the privilege of teaching the Sustainability Education Program at the Ramati Technology Center. For over 20 years, I've strived to integrate environmental issues and solutions into the curriculum so that every student can engage with these complex subjects and carry these values into their lives and future careers. Thanks to the vision and unwavering support of our lead teacher and manager, Pip Timoteo, we've been able to bring this program to 1,000 year 7-8 students annually since 2022. This project has its roots in Quebec, Canada, where I'm originally from. The first symbolic chair was adopted in Quebec City in 2021. Since then, over 100 chairs have been adopted across Quebec, including in the National Museum and in the Parliament. The climate crisis is a defining moment for our societies and the biosphere. It presents both challenges and opportunities to build a world driven by empathy, ambitions, and wisdom. Consider this. Although cities occupy just 3% of our planet, they are responsible for 75% of global CO2 emissions and consume 80% of the world's energy. I hope this chair will remind the Kapiti Council of the profound responsibility they hold to create a safer, more just world than the one we inherited. I want to extend my gratitude to Pip Timoteo, Micheline Robinson, a fabulous local artist who helped us in the creation of that chair, the people from Paperscape who made the Ahakeke paper that we use for the youth declaration here, and of course our dedicated students whose hard work brought this project into life. Projects like this give us hope for a new generation of engaged and responsible citizens. And finally, thank you to the Kapiti Council for accepting the chair and introducing it to New Zealand. Thank you.
Kia ora, I'm Neris.
I'm Ines.
And I'm Charlotte.
Today we're going to be talking about the goal and process of making this chair, along with the declaration of the Generation Chair.
We are the Voices of Our Future, an eco-action group formed by students from local primary schools attending the Raumati Technology Centre, RTC. Our team also includes Michelin Robinson, a local professional artist, Pip Timoteo, the leader of RTC, and Anne-Marie Dosset, the sustainability teacher at RTC. We created the Generation Chair to remind Kapiti District decision makers that their actions today will shape the lives of both present and future generations.
The Generation Chair stands as a powerful symbol of the two possible outcomes for our future, depending on the actions we take today. It serves as a constant reminder to consider the rights and welfare of future generations and the current young generation in every decision made. Let it be a reminder that though the younger and future generations cannot sit and make decisions with you, they are the ones who will live to face the consequences of your decisions.
We designed and created the Generation Chair by incorporating various elements to depict two possible futures. We used different materials and symbols to show both negative and positive outcomes of our actions regarding the climate crisis.
On the left side, we have incorporated dried brown grass, which represents a future with continued neglect where our environment suffers. The tree stumps symbolize deforestation and loss of biodiversity. The factory represents industrial pollution and its impact on our air and water quality.
We have an oil spill and rubbish in the water. It's to illustrate ocean pollution. And the water marker is to indicate rising sea levels due to climate change. On the right side, we have solar panels and wind turbines to signify the adoption of renewable energy.
The vegetable garden represents sustainable farming practices. The healthy trees indicate thriving forests and biodiversity. The clean, low water level symbolizes manageable sea levels.
The declaration of the Generation Chair. We're here to talk about something really important, the future. The Generation Chair is a reminder of all the Tamariki and future generations who can't speak up yet. The choices we make today will shape their world. It's up to us to protect their rights and well-being.
We, the rangatahi, the youth, declare that we will be kaitiaki for our whenua, wai, and rangi, making sure we take care of Papatūānuku for those who come after us.
We declare that the Generation Chair is here to remind everyone today that what we do today will affect our mokopuna, our descendants. We need to make decisions that are good for the future and show guardianship for all living things.
We declare that as kaitiaki, we have to think about how what we do now will impact the future. Let's make sure our choices respect our whakapapa, our connections, and keep them strong between us, our ancestors, and the generations to come.
We declare that every new law or rule should help protect our future. The Generation Chair will remind everyone in charge to put future generations first in their decisions.
We declare that we will think about manaakitanga, caring for others and our world. We need to hold ourselves accountable and make sure we're doing the right thing as kaitiaki.
The Generation Chair stands for our promise to create a fair and sustainable future. Let it always remind us to leave behind a legacy of hope, prosperity, and justice for every generation to come.
So we're
Does that conclude your presentation? Well done. Yes, absolutely.
So it's the declaration and the description of the chair to sit next to the chair. Thank you.
I don't know about everybody else around the table, but I was actually so inspired and also really moved by that presentation. It's just such a wonderful kaupapa that you bring here today. We do have Sophie Hanford reminding us of all these things a lot, but Sophie's not always going to be here, you know. She may move on to do other things in the future, and we just need to make sure that we embed all this and that we make sure that it's central to everything that we do. So actions like this are really powerful and historic, really. You know, this day will be always remembered, that you came and you made this declaration and you brought us this beautiful gift, this taonga that you've created. And congratulations to you and Micheline just on the artwork. It's a wonderful diorama, and the description of all the elements in it, just, it's absolutely fantastic. But the most powerful thing is that declaration that you just made. And we'll find somewhere to put it on the wall. We'll find somewhere to keep this chair where it can continue to remind us, and we'll work with you to make sure that you're happy with that. And I'll now open the floor to any questions or comments. Councillor Coe.
Yes, look, that's absolutely fabulous and, yeah, very moving, a very powerful message. And I'm just wondering if you've got any ideas about how we can get more mileage out of the effort that you've put into this. I would hate to see something like this put in the back room or on a bottom shelf somewhere, or and it seems to be it needs to be brought to life somehow, and perhaps have some sort of display along with some video elements of you know, giving your presentation, and it needs to be circulated somehow. I'm not quite sure how. Perhaps you've got some ideas about how we can use the chair as a device, you know, to reach a lot of people. Maybe you don't have any ideas at the moment, but, you know, something we need to, you know, we could work on.
Quebec, this chair was kind of multiplier, you know, into different corporate boards, or sometimes it was museum, or they want to put it at Ottawa as well, at the federal level. So we wish that it's going to be kind of having a multiple effect. So that's why we encourage everyone here, you know, to kind of talk about this initiative. So we've got a chair like this sitting around important decision places like, you know, district council or, you know, city council. So it's just kind of a reminder that they're not sitting yet around this table, but they're going to deal with the impact of all the inaction or the action. So, but we've got tons of pictures, you know, that we kind of took during the process of making, and we won't stop there. So, yeah, thank you for your comment. Yeah. Yeah. So in Quebec, there's a page dedicated to that, and there's some video explaining the project as well. So yeah.
So I'll remind. Sorry, wait for your microphone. So
Okay.
the previous comment was around utilisation of social media and Facebook, Instagram. So yeah, good idea. No, thank you for that comment, Councillor Coe. I think that's really, really important to make the most of this opportunity, and we have our what represents our corporate world sitting in the room today at the back of the room there. So I'm sure our business community are listening to this as well and pondering how they might bring this kaupapa into their work as well. Who's next? Councillor Wilson.
Yeah, just congratulations for all the work that you're doing. I think it's really important. In 30 or 40 years' time, I probably won't be here. But you will be, and so it's your planet and your future. So good on you for being responsible for it. It's never too early to step up, and you guys are doing a great job. So good on you.
Councillor Hanford.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And I think as the Mayor talked to, both the chair itself and also the way that you spoke today was incredibly powerful. You not only kind of used your words to speak, but it really felt like what you were saying was coming from the heart, and understanding that actually the decisions that we make, you have the biggest stake in those decisions, and they literally shape the future that you'll be entering into. So I just really thank you for being so brave to come into what can feel like a pretty intimidating environment, one that you're probably not so used to, and speak your truth and speak with such passion and heart and care for the planet and for people and for future generations. And I just encourage you to keep doing this. And I also encourage all of the elected members to go and visit the Raumati Technology Centre and see the work that they're doing in the sustainability department and through the classes. And yeah, it's seriously amazing to see how inspired and energized the students are in the work that they produce is as well. So yeah, very inspiring. I do have one question for you girls. I wonder kind of if you could say one thing to central government, like if you could send a message to the Prime Minister or to the government, what would you want them to do? What kind of pressure do you think that we could put as a council on other representatives? Should we be sending the same message that they should have a chair to, or what do you think is most important for us to be saying to the other players?
It would be great if they could get a chair too, so that to remind them that the younger and future generations, they have the biggest stake in all the decisions they make. So, and
Yeah, just to remember that all the generations and future generations are affected by their decisions, not just their generation. And they need to think about the future generations and what they'll have to deal with if they make a bad decision.
Right,
My turn.
Councillor Halliday.
Kia ora, girls, young ladies. Just to talk with the comments made by the other councillors, thank you very much for your presentation. A question I had was, my view is that great to see you pushing this out our way as well, because it's fantastic to hear from you guys, and we are working in this space, so all the support we can get as well, and your views are very, very much appreciated. One of the things that I've talked to before is the power that you have as young people at schools with regards to educating your fellow schoolmates, if you like, and getting on your parents' backs at home with regards to this sort of thing, because all those people are also in very important decision-making roles in what they have in life, but also it's just changing mentalities, which is a slow process. And I can assure you, having my 3 girls grow up and have left home now, but what they want at your age is quite impactful on the household. So I do urge you to also be pushing your conversation back into your schools and asking them to also the students to do their work with regards to working at changing their parents' mindsets and the mindsets of their households as well, because there's some real power there. There's real power there, I do assure you of that. So just something for you to consider there as well. Any way we can help, or certainly if I can help, please let us know.
Do you want to respond to that at all, or we're happy to just to leave it as a comment?
Yeah, I think we were actually planning on trying to get our school to be more active around the environment, and yeah, just thank you for the...
Well, you've just had the offer of support with that, so, and I know Councillor Halliday is as good as his word in that regard. So, on to the Deputy Mayor, Lawrence Kirby.
Kia ora, ladies. Very nice to have you here, and was great earlier in the year to host you in the Mayor's office as you first presented this chair to us. And to see it come to this point of being presented to Council is awesome. Very courageous of you to stand up for what you think and to come into this environment and to speak on behalf of your generation. So well done. Do you have, and I know you do, so this is a bit of a setup question, what are your plans for the future for your work at the Technology Centre and for you as you transition into college?
They understand the microphone straight away. See that, councillors? She was just pausing to wait for the microphone light to come on.
Our next project that we're currently working on is a moss mural. We haven't quite found the right recipe to make it actually stick on the wall. So what it is we're gonna design a symbol to go along with our saying that we've chosen to I Have a Dream, and put it on the side of the Ramsey Technology Centre to, well,
So everyone can see it,
Yeah.
you know, from Kapiti College and from the street. So it's going to be a planet Earth with like New Zealand in the center.
yeah.
And the slogan, we have a
Yeah.
dream. Yeah.
So
that's nice.
hopefully it will go.
That sounds like a fantastic project.
That's great. I know that's also happening. I know that the Technology Centre has been funded through our climate action grants for the work in this space to support you as our rangatahi and the work that you're wanting to do and in this whole area of sustainability. Do you want to talk, Anne-Marie, about a little bit of what's going on in that space for the Raumati Technology Centre and the work on the land behind and that kind of thing? Just because I think it's important for our community to understand this work is going on and it is making a difference for the future of our district.
Hello. Okay, cool. Yeah, so we have the chance to have a 1.5 hectare land that was considered a wasteland for many years. You know, it's owned by the Ministry of Education, and it's really up the hill. So it's a sand dune, and there's a bit, you know, of a wetland also near, you know, the art center. It's really in the middle of a campus, so we're just attached to Kapiti College, attached to Raumati Beach School and us. So we're really close to the Raumati Beach sector as well. And the goal is to kind of rewild this area, so to kind of put a lot of native trees and to develop an orchard as well, so public can access, so and go by trail and you know, visit that place. So some of the funding that the Kapiti district is giving will go for this. We apply also for other type of project. We use the money that you gave us to build like a greenhouse, compost bin. We are going to kind of put some beehives as well. So with the honey we're going to be harvesting, we're going to be using it inside of our foods room. So they're all kind of integrated project, and so the money usually that you gave us is multiplied with other kind of partner that we have. So we're starting also to have some educational project, you know, going on during the weekend time. So Anna Schwartz is giving some permaculture and horticulture classes to adults. We've got some art class going on 2 nights every week. We've got also some people giving some, you know, workshop about, you know, how to minimize their waste at home. So we're kind of using the center just not for formal education, you know, with group that age, but also for other. We're targeting other group as well, and to become, you know, really an educational hub that's going to be doing a lot of stuff in the community. But right now, the 1,000 students are coming from Waikanae all the way up to Paikakariki. So they're coming to us by buses or walking every single week during the school year. So we've been around for many, many years. Maybe some of you have been to that center when they were kids. But with Pip Timoteo, we're kind of always developing new program, new project as well. Along, we're not just teaching the curriculum, we're just innovating as well. So hopefully this type of program will be multiplied as well in other technological centers, so others can benefit of that outside of Kapiti Coast. Does it answer? Yeah.
I think that was a great answer. Thank you. So I just want to acknowledge Neris, Ines, and Charlotte for coming this morning. Thank you. I look forward to following your progress over the next few years as you continue to provide this voice for us and remind us of this chair and the importance of considering it. So thank you again, ladies, for coming in.
Councillor Coфord.
Oh, thank you. Oh, congratulations and thanks for coming along to council this morning. Very courageous and very, very clear with your message and very, very practical. I just see the chair there. They say a picture displays 1,000 words, but that sculpture has 1,000,000 words, and I see there's a bit of urban planning in it, a big house there, bit of green for the farmers. And I was just wondering, can we borrow that chair district-wide and perhaps have it at Old Taki for a week in the library there and get some of our people to look at it? And the land that you're looking at to develop, we'd really love to be involved with that. We've got Shelley here with her horses. we've got our bridleway walkways, and we just love to be involved with that. No, congratulations, you put your story across so well, and it's a really good example. And it's good to see that the environment and the world are in good hands in the future. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Mansell, I think is next.
Hi, congratulations. That was a fantastic presentation. A couple of questions. Is this the first in New Zealand? Yes. And is there a plan to take it beyond just the Kapiti region?
Absolutely, yes.
Yep.
I have someone in here that interested to bring the idea to Rohirua.
Yep, okay.
So, yeah, hopefully it's going to be spreading like it did.
Okay. As the first, is there any way the Kapiti Coast District Council can help with the process of spreading the word, being a fan or a cheerleader or anything like that? Because the mood in here is it's a really influencer. Sorry, everybody loves the idea, and let's spread it out and let's get it into Parliament. Let's get it into all the district councils.
Yeah, we love that. You know that.
I'm speaking on behalf of the mayor, but I think we'd all be happy to help, wouldn't we?
Sorry, I missed that. I was just. I just had a last minute public speaker and also a plan for what to do with the chair.
I was just suggesting that the Kapiti Coast District Council would be willing to help spread the kaupapa.
Yeah, absolutely. Sounds like the chair's going to go on tour. Yeah. So that reaches the end of our comments. I'm just wondering, which is what I was chatting about just then, quite rudely, while Mr. Mansell was speaking. I was wondering if you could, before you finish, just pick up the chair and stand with it behind the chairs that you're sitting on, so that anybody watching on live stream, I can imagine if you were watching this, it'd be really frustrating because you can't see the chair that we're talking about. So if we could just pick it up. And the camera will pick it up quite well if I turn my microphone off and you just stand behind the chairs that you're sitting on. Thank you so much for coming along today. It's just been absolutely brilliant.
Thank you for having us. This has
Yeah.
been a great opportunity to come here and present the chair to you guys.
Yes. Thank you. Great. Thanks again, guys. Thanks so much. Okay, we're now going to move on to public speaking time for items relating to the agenda. So I have Kim Hobson. Kim, are you? So I do have, what I'm going to do is I'll have speakers, business representatives can speak. I'm going to move them to during the Economic Development Strategy and new operating model report. Unless it's a wider comment, if it's from the perspective of a business owner or somebody who's been feeding into the process. If it's a more general comment or if you see any issues with it, then we'll have those now. So I hope that's clear. Which category do you think you fall into, Kim? Would you rather speak now or during the report? Okay, that's great. So now we have members' business. Leave of absence can be communicated to my office. Matters of an urgent nature, I haven't received any. There's nothing under item 10, so we move on to item 11 now. Economic Development Strategy and new operating model. I'll invite staff and Neil to come to the table. Okay, sorry. So we will have public speaking time for Kim. So we're going to just go backwards because apparently this is an organised group that's going to come and speak during the item. So Kim, would you like to come to the table now? And we'll go back to item 7. We'll just go back a little bit. Yeah, apparently we have an organised list of speakers to happen during that item, so
Oh, okay.
that's great. Thank you. It's great to have you here.
Yeah, would have preferred to be in amongst or after them, but there's two things I want to address. One is obviously directly related to the economic development, where there's quite a large number of small cottage industries that is running in here in Kapiti, and it's not recognised. And the Kapiti Council don't actually have any idea of what is being achieved on the coast here. To give you an example, one of the world's #1 hardware engineers started here in Kapiti. He's currently in Canterbury. Next weekend he's flying to Canberra on invitation to do a presentation there. He's already been to the United States. He's off to Italy again next year. And none of this is recognised or anywhere, and there's no one that we can actually go to in the Kapiti to ask for, support or recognition. There's other companies that are struggling as well. There's they export product out of Kapiti. Obviously, they're being impacted by commercial rent increases, which are directly attributed to rates. And I just wondered, how the council is going to move forward and recognise some of these industries that are already here and existing. The other thing is, and it's which is why I wanted to go after the development on #4 Kapiti Road, which obviously has stopped work and they've started work again. I understand that the council has approved a $1.8 million loan to continue the development of there. I just wonder why that's happened.
Yeah, I'm sorry that's not related to the agenda today. But we're happy to take that query offline
Okay.
and get back to you.
All right, thank you for your time. Any questions?
Thank you for your contribution today. Yeah, questions?
Well,
Let's go.
I've got my mic on, thank you. Look, thanks very much for your comments. You're absolutely spot on. I just wonder if you're aware of some of the things that are happening in this space, and we are gradually building a much stronger business network and also support system for businesses, recognising that most of our business in Kapiti are 1, 2 or 3 or 4 people. That typifies business in Kapiti. We have micro businesses here, not small businesses, they're micro. So I would encourage you to explore what is on offer through Chamber of Commerce business associations, and within the Economic Development Kotahitanga Board framework, we are working actively on a startup ecosystem and a sort of an ecosystem that helps people go to the next level with their businesses. So
Thank you for that.
Talk to you more offline.
Yeah, and some of that might become clear as we go through item 11.1.
Yeah.
Thanks,
Thank you for raising that point.
Yeah, questions, stick to questions, please. Councillor Cooper.
Thank you. So the EDKB has been around for quite some time, or some time. So you were saying that they haven't impacted your business or your sector? They haven't engaged or have been little value to your business, your sector?
No, they're probably totally unaware of myself. They're probably unaware of the two software companies that are based or were based here in Pauparam, have since moved out. There is another, I'm in the electronics industry. There is another electronics company that's struggling. He's just laid off two of his 5 staff. And that is purely because of his overheads have gone up and his production, and everything's just put the big squeeze on.
Okay. Thank you.
Councillor Halliday.
Yeah, through you, Madam Chair. Hey, look, thanks for being here. Firstly, it's an apologies on my end with regards to you've been trying to get a hold of me, so I just make an undertaking to catch up with you very, very soon. My apologies for that. EDKB, just in relation to Councillor Cooper's thing, it's only been around for about 3 years, and it's an evolving mechanism, so I think it's heading in the right direction, but there's still a trail to go. But certainly in the first instance, my recommendation would be, and hopefully these businesses are involved with either the Chamber or the local Māori business network as well, because that's certainly first ports of call with regards to being able to support those businesses and perhaps having a more collaborative voice that's being representative coming into council to follow that up. That's the role of the Chamber, is that advocacy space as well. But likewise, they can come in here, or people like yourself can come in here as well and advocate. And I do appreciate that, and I will certainly follow
Do you
it
have a
up.
question, Councillor Halliday?
Sorry. No, there wasn't. My apologies,
yeah.
Madam.
Well,
My apologies, Madam Chair. I guess the question...
We're out of deputations
Yep,
and
no,
we're
no,
into
no,
public
no.
speaking, so I'll invite questions from the table, please. Councillor
Well,
Go
thanks, Madam Chair. Just a quick question. Were you aware of the EDKB when you were running your business? You weren't?
No,
Right.
no, my business is still running.
Mm.
Probably like myself, we're so focused on getting product out the door that we don't actually know who to turn to or where to reach. And one of the software writers that's world renowned, he's on invitation around the world. He's trying to study down in Canterbury University. They are shifting their exam schedules to suit him being not in the country. He's certainly one of their prime students. In fact, he actually runs one of the lectures himself. The lecturer sits in the classroom because they do not have the ability to extend his knowledge.
Oh, thanks for that. If you were aware of the EDKB when you set up, would you approach them?
Yes.
Right, thank you.
And I would probably also, I'm in touch with a number of businesses up here, and I would also either refer them directly to them or collaborate an approach.
Thank you. Cam, do you have a question? Yep.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thanks for coming along, Kim. Just, you sound like you're a man that's in touch with a lot of businesses and the like. If there are businesses that don't know about the EDKB and the activities that the council are doing, what would you suggest is the best way for the council and the EDKB team to actually get hold of them or get the communication out to them?
I don't actually know how that would happen because probably 80% of you know who I am here anyway. But I don't represent all of them. I'm just out in the community. I talk to people. I know what, there's quite a big electronics industry here in Kapiti, and we actually all share components. The components are negligible in cost, but someone will ring me up and say, "Oh, have you got so-and-so?" Yep. And I'll just go and deliver them a reel of it. And
okay. So word of mouth is a good way?
Yeah, word of mouth.
Yep. So if the relevant information got to you, you could
Yes.
help spread it out?
Yep, definitely.
Excellent. Thanks, Kim.
Great. So good to hear your feedback as we continue to expand our efforts in this area. It's hard to be all things to all people, so it's really good to hear some ways that you think we might be able to expand the way we communicate and support businesses. So thanks for coming in today. Thank you. I do have another public speaker who I thought was part of the Economic Development Delegation, but in fact has come independently, and that's Juanita Penny. Do we have? No, no, you're all good? Great. Okay. Feel free to get in touch if you want to book a time to have a chat in the office, or email if you've got any concerns, and we'll get you through to the right people. Great. So now we shall move on to item 11.1, Economic Development Strategy and New Operating Model. Sorry for the back and forth, people. Have we got enough room up there? Fantastic. We've got some real movers and shakers in the room today, and I'm not just talking about our deputation. Neil, are you going to start off, or Chris?
If I may, I was just going to say, just to kick us off, following on from a recent briefing, just to remind you, today it's a tale of two halves. The first half, which we have some wonderful people from our community here with Neil to share with you some thoughts about where we've got to and how things have been going in terms of our current strategy. And then the second part of this conversation, which really will just be Neil with, I think Kim may be here for representing the EDKB as well. We'll be talking about our next phase of work. Before I hand over to Neil, I just wanted to share with you that as part of Super Local, the Kapiti Coast held a tour, and we had some people come out from other local district regional councils, not a huge amount, but Blair, who is sitting with us today, was one of our businesses in our food and beverage cluster who welcomed that group to our community. And I just wanted to share this nugget with you that since those councils have come up, and those councils were from the far north, Invercargill and Oamaru, they have asked us if we can share with them what we're doing in our economic development space, the model that we're using, and how we've been doing the wonderful things that we have been doing with our food and beverage cluster. So Blair will be able to share more about that today. But I just thought that's a nice way to start this conversation, that some of your colleagues are seeing what we're doing is really innovative and ahead of the game. So I think they were... I think councils who are in a comparatively similar position to Kapiti, so they're not a main city. So it was quite neat to be able to get that feedback, and just to assure you that I'm not being overly positive about it, helpfully, Lawrence and Martin actually heard from those councillors and the Mayor actually from Oamaru of their own version of that, and I'm sure they may share that later. So I just really wanted to start off with, it's quite neat to be able to start from a place of hearing that where we've got to sounds like it's innovative to others. So with that, I will hand over to Neil.
Thank you, and tēnā koutou katoa. I think I want to just really add to comments that have effectively been made through the paper before you, and I just want to acknowledge it's a very good paper, and I'm presumably taking that as being read. So I'm just going to add a little bit more to what's on there. So obviously, considerable groundwork has been laid for future economic development in Kapiti, and the closeout report that sort of covered 20 to 23 strategy implementation, that referred to a large number of activities and outcome highlights. And some information was also shared on the importance of clusters, and I guess that the other key areas really that are going to focus us in going forward. So I thought it'd be actually useful to get some insights. We talked about clusters, we talked about education and training, and from our points of view. But today I just want to get some insights from representatives, if you like, from the sectors. So I'm going to ask first of all Jan Thornborough from Outfox to talk about the technology cluster and what she sees in that and where she sees it going. But just to give you a good understanding of it, that's all.
Thank you, Neil. Tēnā koutou katoa. I'm Jan Thornborough. I run an award-winning cyber resilience company out here in Kapiti. We've been going for about 3.5 years. I've joined the technology cluster as soon as it started, and being part of it has actually allowed me to meet other tech entrepreneurs in the Kapiti region, and some really heavy-hitting ones as well, like Andy Prow from Red Shield and Scott Houston, people that have really made their name on the global stage. And I may not have met these people otherwise if this Kapiti cluster hadn't started. And it's opened new opportunities for our business to collaborate with other tech companies that are actually based out here. And it also has given me peers to relate to the challenges of starting up a tech company in New Zealand. In terms of how we've contributed to the work program, I've attended all the workshops and events that they've had. I've spoken on panels. I've offered insights from being one of the few woman-owned tech company owners in the country, and trying to encourage other women into tech, because it's actually a really difficult challenge. We don't even see tamariki coming through school that are even interested in getting into tech out here, which is a real shame. I go along to the Work Ready events, and 9 times out of 10 there's no one that wants to come and talk to me, and if they do, it's usually the boys. And I think I've only ever spoken to one girl, and she was more interested in baking than she was in having a career in tech. In terms of our forward vision and plans, the tech cluster is obviously still in its infancy, but there's really a lot of interest in making it work for Kapiti-based entrepreneurs, startups, and the tech workers that actually commute into Wellington. I know a lot of tech workers that live out here. Now, they have to work in Wellington because there's actually no jobs for them out this way. I've employed a young kid straight out of school out here, and we're struggling to keep him gainfully employed at the moment, purely because there's nowhere else for him to develop his tech skills. He has to have another part-time job while he works with us so that he can keep working with us. So building a tech startup in Kapiti has been a challenge. Members of the tech cluster don't really fit into the demographic that belong to the likes of the Chamber and BNI and some of the other opportunities out here. The startup ecosystem's great. I think that's a general set of skills and offerings for any business, which is fantastic. But when you start getting deep into your own industry, there's nothing out here to support tech industries other than other tech firms. So by building the tech cluster, we're providing a place for budding tech entrepreneurs to find their peers and mentors who can share experiences that are actually unique to tech companies. Tech is a low carbon, highly sustainable industry. It has no geographical boundaries. Most of the members of the tech cluster, including myself, we have customers nationally and internationally. So there's really no constraints on us. And we've got the potential to bring a lot of jobs and a lot of wealth into the Kapiti region, if there are incentives enough to set up tech companies out here. A strong tech cluster that provides support to businesses at all stages of the growth cycle would help achieve that. And it also gives the local tamariki a diversity of choice when choosing their future career paths. We live in a digital economy these days. We're not going back to the olden days unless there's a massive cyber attack. But the Kapiti can gain a reputation as being the most tech-friendly city in the country if we can make this work. Yeah. And I think this is the way of the future, and I really encourage you to help us build the Kapiti Tech Cluster and embrace that. Thank you.
Well, thanks. Thank you, Jan. Food and beverage. Blair Harley will talk to that. Dark Horse Coffee.
Morning. I think perhaps I'll just start by saying ordinarily if you put Mr. Manson and I in a room together and a couple of microphones in front of us, you're probably more likely to get a rendition of "Take Me Home, Country Roads" than any coherent thoughts. But wonderful to be here this morning. I just really quickly, congratulations to the Raumati Community Board on their acknowledgement the other night, and for the group that organised the local government tour. Was actually it was really great to be a part of. So well done to everyone involved there. There's probably three key themes for me around this. I think for food and beverage sector. If any of you have attended any of our events, trying to coordinate all of these small businesses, it is like herding cats, and so I think that's where having someone like the board, the job that Anna does in that space, to coordinate but to share information, share opportunities, has been invaluable in the success of that cluster coming together. Fundamentally, the role of it is, certainly as I see, it's about coordination and collaboration. It's about creating ideas and connections that can lead to opportunity. But the risk is that business owners see taking advantage of that opportunity is that somehow council is involved, has a responsibility in that, which is fallacy, right? The fairness is determined, the market determines what is fair, and it's up to each business within that then to take advantage of those opportunities. And I think the opportunity that comes through the EDU connection for us is just maybe creating ideas and sowing seeds, allowing you to connect with someone that's been there, that's walked that path, that can help you to win that race that you're in. So certainly we've seen some real benefit and some real interesting conversations that have come through that. I think inextricably linked to success for a lot of those businesses in that space becomes the Kapiti brand. So we've grown up in this sector with Kapiti cheese, with Kapiti ice cream, with Kapiti olive oil. What's the next great brand to come out of Kapiti? I think that's something that is there is a really strong role for the people in the room to show leadership, and how that ties through to the board, I think is a really important conversation to have. And then the third key point for me is just leaning on the young ladies that were in earlier, is around sustainability and how we deal with waste. I'll just draw on a couple of examples. So Ruapehu District Council, my Noki, Noki's Reo for Worm, NOKE, that is a business that has grown up from dealing with waste, so specifically around food and beverage, but also if you go that next step around separating household waste, green waste. And there's a commercial opportunity there. I think they employ 15 to 20 people now that have set up this worm farm that gather this waste, and then they resell that compost back to horticulture, agriculture. So I think there's some stuff there where the board can, perhaps there's opportunities around how do you commercialise that. If you look at Singapore and Finland, who burn their waste to turn it into electricity, right? So is there a conversation there with Electra, with councils, with iwi? If you look at waste management, I don't know what that is, but it's $100 million, maybe $1 billion industry in New Zealand. So an investment case around how do you deal with waste actually may become quite an attractive proposition. So I think there's some quite chunky bits there where it actually needs commercial oversight, commercial insight to bring some of that to the fore. And I think that's where some of the great work that we're seeing, we would really encourage and look forward to that continuing. There's some pretty important conversations to be had that will drive this area forward with our brand, with our sustainability piece, which are really, really critical conversations that you want to be having with your consumer. Really key stuff that these guys can lead, which is exciting.
Thank you, Blaine. Okay, tourism. If you'd step up Steph Russell from Big Mac Slab Furniture.
I think most of you know me. I am, I'm Steph from Big Mac Slabs Furniture and Creative Centre. My husband and I bought our business here in 2014. However, we've been supporting the Kapiti region since the inception of the Kapiti Food Fair, and in the earlier days, the Kapiti Sustainable Show, which was a council initiative. So the council has been doing sustainability for nearly 20 years. So it's great that it's evolving. I'm a huge advocate for collaborations and clusters, especially for small businesses, because it creates more opportunities and support systems for everyone involved. For more than 10 years, I was the chair of the Wellington Creative Manufacturing Cluster, and in that time we were able to put different businesses together to apply for tender or put in tenders for bigger projects that they wouldn't be able to achieve on their own, which is a huge benefit to clusters, and it also helps them to be able to tap into international markets. With my T&E hat on, I've taken a number of clusters to international markets and done trade shows with them and helped them to take in export opportunities, and that's been from all around the country. But we've had some very big success stories with that, whereas those businesses on their own could never have achieved those opportunities. And on the home front, the Creative Centre is in fact effectively a cluster, because it has 8 businesses and 103 artists on site, and has become a visitor destination for the region because it's the biggest creative space in the Lower North Island. And it's starting to get the tourists coming in here, and the tourists are getting all the information, stuff that they would normally get from an eyesight from us, because we don't have any roadworks currently outside us, which is a huge bonus. And you can turn around with a trailer, and there's room for your motorhome.
You're off piste.
So we've just kind of become the default eyesight. Anyway, I'm sidetracking. I do that. He told me 4 minutes.
He did.
So I had to put notes so that I didn't ramble. Currently, I'm involved with the creative sector and a bunch of clusters in that area, the tourism and the food and bev clusters, and the Chamber of Commerce in the significant big clusters. And I provide marketing assistance, business opportunities, building space and business guidance in most of those clusters. And there are a lot of people in the Kapiti region that are in the over 50s range that have knowledge and are happy to share it. And one of the great things about a cluster is that they can put those people with these people. Whereas when you've got a really big group, people get lost, like the gentleman that spoke earlier. His business hasn't been supported because there wasn't a cluster at that time when he needed it 3 years ago around the tech industry. And so I think having a body like what we're proposing here, and then splitting that into clusters underneath, allows support networks that the council can't provide and shouldn't provide. It's not your job, and you don't know what's going on. An example of this is because we get tourist people, we also get bus tours coming to us. And they could be lionesses, they could be gardening groups, they could be car clubs. And they don't just want to come to the Creative Centre, they want to do at least one, if not 2 other activities and eat somewhere. So, I've been sending them to the Bond store, and I'm just about to put Black Horse onto that agenda, so that and the Jolly Pub, because they can handle 40 people serving at once. We have a challenging situation in Kapiti in that because we've got very small businesses, a lot of them, there's nowhere to put 40 people at once. So that limits us. We also don't have any accommodation. So we have to go with the day trippers. We can't actually promote ourselves properly as a holiday destination because we haven't got accommodation. Hopefully, further down the Wellsong thing that might change, but it's an issue at the moment. But because of the hospitality clusters, I have been able to meet other people that I can send my groups to and make a whole package deal, which is what was a win-win for everybody. The other thing about clusters that is great is that they can do joint trade stand events. They can, things like food fairs and stuff like that, both out of the region and within the region. They can do logistics stuff together, get better freight deals and courier deals because they're working in as a group. And I've seen that working with the food and beverage as well. They can co-host events and promote each other. And all of those things only happen because you've got a support network around a specific industry. My vision for this region is that we promote Kapiti as not just beautiful beaches and walkways, but we promote ways that people can spend money here. Because we currently promote all our beautiful stuff, but we can't get any economic measure on that because it doesn't cost to walk the escarpment track. We can't measure the people that are actually coming in and out of the region. The other great vision I'm hoping for is that we can get Wellingtonians to realise we're just up the road, not miles away. For years, I have been doing for Mills and the Wellington Home Show, promoting Kapiti, and half of the Wellingtonians do not know what Transmission Gully is, let alone that we're half an hour away. It is unbelievable, the uneducation of Wellington. And the fact that Wellington Tourism's been promoting us would be a fairly good reason to say we can do it better ourselves.
Indeed. It's fair to say.
Sorry. One last thing, if I used up my 4 minutes.
Yeah, and some.
I just think we need to, from a business point of view, that's my private stuff, business point of view, we need to develop better relationships between education, youth and business, so that our youth don't leave the region, because we've got some real gaps in employment, which is going to get spoken about in a second, I think. To develop better relationships between council compliance and the industry, as it seems interpretation of laws by councils, in particular around events, liquor, parking and promotion, is a real challenge for the food and bev industry. Where they can do things in one region can't do it here, so maybe there's some interpretation required. And to strengthen clusters so that they become economically viable on their own and self-sustaining, so that they're no longer needing to be a drain on the taxpayer.
Ratepayer.
Ratepayer in this case. I get to be both. Okay,
Look,
there we go, I've bleated.
Good on you, Steve. Thank you very much. And finally, education and training, just to give you a sense of what's happening there. And I'll ask Danny Riley from UCOL.
Yeah, good morning. Yes, so most of you won't know me, like the rest. So I'm Danny Riley, I'm from UCOL, I'm an executive dean there. I've been part of this consultation around this new model for the last 2 to 3 years with all the different workshops that have been going on. It's informed me enough to actually go and spend quite a considerable amount of money and come up with our own education strategy for the coast, for our what we're calling our Horowhenua Kapiti Coast education strategy. I've been a real advocate for the new model, especially around the clusters. Education, people have had a go, Polytechs have had a go at providing some educational programs down throughout the coast, and generally failed. What I think the new model and having these clusters will inform what the skills and training is needed, and it'll be a lot easier for us to partner with them. the gentleman who spoke earlier, I think was a classic. There are often niche industries, and they can be varied, but they don't have a voice. But when you bring them together, you can and a lot of them are often in that manufacturing area, and they are an aging workforce, and there's a real opportunity there for young people to get involved with those industries. Often what happens with those industries is that those people will retire and that business closes, and we see a lot of that. So I think there's a real opportunity there. How would we do that? How would we partner with these? You see, I think you have to be a lot more innovative. You don't have to go looking for money. People like us get funded. So you're using existing money. Where we need to start and need to get much better in this country is, I'm passionate about people, the 70% that don't go to university, and there's a lot of them in this area, of course. And so when those people leave school, they should be able to leave school with the skills to go straight into work. We've got to get to a point in this country where people can at least complete 1 year of their apprenticeship while they're at school. So we're very successful at running Trades Academy. We have 900 students that come from schools who come to us every week, some for 1 day program a week, some for a 2 day program, and we have around 60 kids that I run as what we call a 3+2. They come for 3 days a week, and they would complete the first year of their apprenticeship while they're at school. When you look at the construction trade here on the Kapiti Coast, 70% of the businesses get their apprentices, their new apprentices, just through word of mouth. It's quite an interesting statistic, actually. Whereas if you took the Manawatu, they would get them nearly all from us at Polytech. So you might think, well, there is not an opportunity there, but the opportunity is to actually upskill them while they're at school, so that now they only have to do 2.5, 3 years to become a tradesperson. So accelerating them as young people to get the skills quicker and earlier. And you can do that over years 12 and 13. The other area I see real opportunity is around some of your industries. I mean, if you look at the creative industry, and just while I was driving down this morning, this government wants to stop funding creative subjects in secondary schools, and they want less of that. And all I saw was an opportunity, because through Trades Academy, we could provide that as Polytechnic. They don't really have too much say, or we have a lot of autonomy around those sort of decisions. So really troubling, when you don't value creative minds and understand the value of them where they fit in society. So I think there's I'm a real supporter of this model. It's not dissimilar in some ways to a lot of models in other areas, except its emphasis on these clusters. The SPV does that vehicle to actually form these clusters and grow them. And I think it gives the ability to accelerate training and skills. So I won't use my notes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dennis.
Thank you.
So look, the idea there was really to get some insights into what's happening, of course, and a lot of what we've done, it's making sure that the considerable groundwork that we've laid is actually something is made from it. So there are some limitations that restrict the board from leveraging growth and development opportunities, and a move to next steps of operationalising sort of key projects will require commercial partners and funds. The account will be provided from the ratepayer. So the current governance model won't allow the board to contract directly with government agencies, investors, or strategic partners, or even undertake commercial operations that provide returns to the community. However, there is a way forward, and that's to unlock the potential for a more dynamic and resilient and sustainable economy, and that's changing the business model. So to achieve that, we have previously discussed a range of ED models operating across New Zealand and have received strong support for the proposed approach, which is a charitable trust, and that's the shareholder, with a general purpose vehicle, and that's a limited liability company, and a special purpose vehicle. And the special purpose vehicle, you'll probably be familiar with limited liability companies and trusts, but just the special purpose vehicle probably needs just a wee bit more of explanation. It is in your paper, it refers to a food hub. Another SPV could be regenerative horticulture, where you've got a number of players, Ngā Hāpū.
Sorry, I will interrupt you there, Neil, because I was just wanting to thank our guests for coming today.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing your thoughts with us and taking the time out. And sorry you're here a little bit longer than you expected. Thanks for your patience, and absolutely so valuable what you've shared with us today. So thanks a lot for coming. Thanks. Back to you, Neil.
Yes, no problem. So regenerative horticulture is an example of an SPV where Ngā Hāpū, Māori landowners, MPI, growers, the wānanga, and other government agencies could all be clustered together, become an SPV which would focus on high value crops, returns, capability building, employment, value chain sort of enhancement and resilience. So you've got tied up in that, just one complete sort of commercial activity that's reaching into all of those aspects. And an MPI basically will only fund, where there is the organisation is directly connected to that activity, so that their funding couldn't go to local government. It's got to go to an organisation that can follow through and deliver what is in fact the funding that's coming from them. So look, that's in a nutshell, and I don't want to talk too long because I think the paper is very well written. I just will refer though to the key benefits that are coming from the paper, that are in the paper, and that is maximising opportunities to secure investment, funding and grants for a variety of public, private and philanthropic organisations. It has the capacity to enter into agreements with council, government agencies, investors and business. It maintains the flexibility to grow as the need arises and can expand to take on new initiatives, is independent of council but complementary, and it builds and retains the trust and confidence of the business community by being seen to as a truly independent entity. So they're the key benefits, and we're seeking an in-principle approval to transition the EDKB into an independent legal entity for all of those compelling reasons, with a staged process to enable implementation to occur as outlined in the paper. So that's from me. I think, as I say, it's playing off the paper that's it's with council.
Brilliant.
So any questions?
Thanks very much. Does anybody have any questions? Councillor Spires.
Thank you. I do know the paper's about a trust, but I just want to go back a step. With the accommodation, is there anything that the EDKB can do around bringing more accommodation into Kapiti? I know someone who wants to run an event, but there's not over 2 or 3 days, but there's not the accommodation here to be able to do it in Kapiti?
Yeah, accommodation is one of the key aspects of or key priorities with the tourism board. So they are looking at what's involved and how we can achieve that. Yes.
Oh, great.
Yes,
But
it is.
yeah, and I do support the trust. I think it's great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Councillor Cooper.
This is a question probably as much to Chris, Darren, C, possibly.
Sean today.
Sean. So central government's main changes to local government acts, specifically for council to focus on central services and infrastructure. The 4 well-beings have been removed from the Local Government Act, economic development being one of them. So this is all change that we don't get to agree to. This is all change which directs council back to basics, infrastructure and services. So the question is to the table
I'll take it.
and elected members. So has the CE or elected members had opportunity to go through the work program line by line, project by project, and determine or understand the changes the Local Government Act has made in respect to the four wellbeings, including economic development? And would that not be prudent to do before we move forward with the trust?
I think I might partially answer this question, and I'll start with no changes have been made to the Local Government Act as we stand today. And I think I've shared with councillors before, and I'm happy to recirculate it, that there's 50 acts across legislation that require local government to do things set by central government. In the Local Government Act, the four wellbeings are effectively in the purpose statement of the Act. So I'll say that, but I think I'll share with you this tidbit, which is central government currently has a regional infrastructure fund worth 1.2 billion that's out for provincial areas like ours. So Kapiti's been classified as a region for that. Its focus, although it uses the word infrastructure, is not in pipes in the ground. It's not available for libraries, it's not available for aquatic centres, it's not available for council standard work. It's focused on economic development and infrastructure for the community to lift economic growth alongside the expected growth trajectory in communities. We will shortly be coming to talk to you about some opportunities that we're working with the Economic Development Kotahitanga Board on, but essentially independent entities like the Economic Development Kotahitanga Board are being asked to work with councils on this because there's a perceived role that council has in supporting this work in communities. So I feel at the moment there's some work to be done to unpack what I'm going to say may have been a political statement in a 10-minute speech. The work underneath that hasn't been done yet. And the central government agencies that we're working with are continuing to ask us to work with them on things. So I think the idea of back to basics and core and how it links back to legislation, there's a lot of water to go under the bridge before we'll have a view of what that is. What I can say though is what we have put on the table, hopefully you've read in the paper today, is the model that we're putting on the table is about empowering the community to lead work in economic development, and the model as it's set up will effectively pay for the service that is provided to the community over time so that there isn't a cost to ratepayers at any rate. So I think the model that we're putting in place, you know, I talked about the innovation and other councils going, wow, this is really cool. Council's role, I think, in this has been to activate, facilitate and to convene a lot of the activity that's happening and supporting the Economic Development Kotahitanga Board to do that. So I think of it in that way. I think there's good synergy with what we're doing, and I think the intention of where things are shifting, and that's why others were really interested in how we're managing some of these things. I'm not sure. I'll look around the table if there's anyone else who had anything to add to that. And my feeling is it's too soon to be able to say to you that definitively central government, i.e. the current coalition government, is making a determination on what they think core services is. Nothing further has been provided to us around that.
I think that's my point that I'm making. That's exactly the point I'm making. That
So if you want to make a point, the time to do that would be during debate.
Okay, that's fine.
Thank you.
Okay. Does moving this into a trust that ratepayers will be funding prevent councillors or future councils stop that funding? Or once it's in the trust, are we locked into paying ratepayers money into it through the targeted rate?
Today, the decision that we're asking you to make is an in-principle one to establish the model. We'll be coming back to you, just as we did with the Affordable Housing Entity, the process, to work through the relationship management framework, which will look at those kinds of issues. So I think we've been talking to you about the fact that we're currently set up the way we are. It's shifted in. work related to economic development is paid for through a business rate. And I think what I was mentioning to you before is once this gets set up and it's on its own feet, the idea is it's able to get its own money in and investments and to make money. And the counter could happen for our community, and that it might be that there's a dividend that comes back. So there's lots of opportunities in here to think of it as not about cost, but about investment opportunity. And we'll be coming back to talk more about that. So there's, well, I don't want to get ahead of myself, but there is a lot of business and people in this community who are interested in, including our iwi partners actually, in investing in the community and opportunities that might create dividends that come back to the community.
So the expectation is that targeted rate wouldn't drop or be eventually disestablished because they're independent and making money?
I think that's partly what we're going to come back and talk to you about, is how is that arranged and set up, and what does that look like over a period of time. So the idea is that council would be starting to set, in consultation with the EDKB, some expectations around how that relationship works.
Okay. Once the trust is formed and continues, if it is continued to be funded by ratepayers, is there a concern, or I have a concern essentially, that there's no accountability back to ratepayers as they're completely independent but funded by us or partially funded? Whereas, how do we ensure transparency or accountability by the ratepayers, back to the ratepayers?
Neil, do you want to answer
Yeah,
that?
I'd certainly like to answer that. Yes, the business model has got, there's two agreements that are in place, one between the trust and council, and the other is between the limited liability company and the council. And in that is an agreement, what's it called? It's a relationship agreement. And that relationship agreement, I think you've previously been down that track with the other trust, the building trust, the housing trust. So that will lay out what the expectations of each party is, what the reporting looks like, what briefings they'll need to have before decisions are made, what's the business case for the SPV. Those discussions are very much going to be openly with council.
So if the new trust goes down a road or is operated in a way that councillors or the ratepayers aren't happy with, there's no real way to account to that to the ratepayers, is there, apart from, oh, we've breached the agreement? Or
You'll agree the strategy, and then a business plan will be developed. And then there's the independence comes with obviously the discussions that go on between the other investors, the other government agencies, the other strategic partners. So that will happen. A business case will be formed and an SPV will be developed, but there'll be briefings on that as well. So it's not like it's all going to be done without the knowledge of council.
So the trustee, the acting chief executive, has just informed me is going to come back for further scrutiny and work. So those issues of accountability, which are well raised, can be addressed at that time.
Indeed. Yep.
Great. And lastly, in terms of the statistics and the reporting in the report, is there actually any evidence that the EDKB has impacted either positively or negatively on those statistics? Because they appear just to be a grab from Infometrics or Stats New Zealand or wherever they've come from. How do you know, or how can we be assured that the money being spent, ratepayers' money, is actually impacting any of those statistics at all?
Yeah, the metrics really are more just being set up around the clusters. So we will have GDP metrics start and finish. So we've got a baseline that we're working from, and it's only in the future that we'll be able to demonstrate what, in fact, value it's going to be achieving. This has been a setup process. So the first 2 or 3 years is about establishing our business activities, focusing on getting them to relatively sort of good levels of activity, and making sure that we had at least a baseline metrics for each of the clusters and for education and training and for everything else that we're doing. And that will be able to give you more specific performance details once we get into our first year.
Okay, so this is a snapshot of at the moment, but you're looking forward, you'll have...
That's correct.
Okay.
That's correct, yeah.
Sorry, may I
Thank
add that these are the measures that are in the current economic development strategy,
Yes.
which I think the Chamber, KEDA, everybody
Yes, they
who
signed
had
off on,
input to that process had agreed would be the measures that you would report back against.
Yeah, that's exactly for this time, but we're also going to go down another level, obviously, to get a bit clarity of where our efforts going and what our returns are going to be.
Yep. And just last question. Being an independent trust, is it your view moving forward that you would draw less money from the ratepayer?
Look, over time, we would see a dilution of what the ratepayer is paying, yes, because we'll be getting the benefits of, or the community will be getting the benefits of dividends, but they'll also be getting the benefits of external investment in here that will relate to employment and to growth and development of our economy. So they'll get it a couple of ways: a direct dividend, less reliance on ratepayers, and also the value of what's been brought in from outside investment.
Thank you. Cheers. Thanks, Chris.
Councillor Cofer.
Oh, thanks, Madam Chair. Just a quick one. I appreciate the setting up of a limited liability company and Chris's reference to government funding and things like that. But there were one or two references by the previous speakers to the EDKB that there is a drain on the ratepayer, unquote. What has been the cost to date to the ratepayer for the EDKB?
I don't have those numbers on me.
Right. Thank you.
Councillor Wilson.
Yeah, that was one of my questions. I actually raised it, perhaps it was in a workshop, and wanted to know what the total cost of the EDKB had been to date and what the projected costs were going to be. I understood we were going to get those. I'd still like to see those.
So that information resides with council. It doesn't reside with EDKB.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I don't want to throw Neil under a bus. The questions, I had a lot of questions actually, relevant ones, I'm sure, for Jan and Blair and Steph and Danny, who I thought were really interesting people. I'd like to have more conversations with them. So perhaps we'll have a mechanism for being able to have a chat with them, because they raised some very, very interesting points. So I won't throw Neil under that. I just would note, actually, because somebody mentioned the Oamaru model, with Oamaru, which Dunedin's Coast, I think they're probably going to brand themselves as. But their economic strategy, the whole thrust of their economic strategy is around the four well-beings, interestingly enough, and that's their published comment from for the Waitaki Economic Development Scheme. So I'm not quite sure where that leaves them in the future, and so that goes back to what Chris was saying, but I guess we have to deal with the now, and for now, the well-beings are still in there, and I guess they're reflected in here as well.
Indeed, yeah, they are. Yeah.
Sorry, I just may note that I think during the LTP we had provided information about the economic development budget, which is on LG Hub, but if people would like additional information, feel free to touch base with me and I can come back to you.
Right, I'm not seeing any more lights on. Councillor Coe, did you want to move this?
Yes, I'd like to move recommendations A, B and C in the paper before us.
Who would like to second? Seconded by Councillor Halliday. Right of introduction.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Look, this is the next stage in what's been a very long journey, and if we go back around 10 years or so to the first economic development strategy that was mooted, that was done in conjunction with KEDA and, well, no, it wasn't KEDA at the time, it was the Chamber of Commerce, because it was before KEDA was invented. But it was very much, it was one of our core planks of that strategy was to set up an independent economic development agency. And so it's been on the cards for a very, very long time, and it's something we've had to work as a business community long and hard to secure. And when it was first mooted, there was some nervousness around the concept of an independent group that was partly funded by council, because just at that time we'd had some, some experiences that weren't too favourable in that area. But it's something that we decided to proceed on, and we had to push really hard to get this through. So the starting point really was to set up what is in effect an advisory group as we went on this journey. So the whole idea behind this was it would be the business community deciding on the future of economic development in Kapiti, not council. And that was, I guess, at the time reflective of the business community's feeling that council was not an appropriate body to make decisions about business and economic development. It's something that required skills that resided in the business community, and that is still very much the thinking. Business wants to be able to determine its future destiny, and is better equipped to do so. And at the time when it was first mooted, as I think I mentioned the other day, council had about half a person dedicated to economic development. And it's only through the work that's been done that we've built up in this area and made some great things happen, as we've heard from our public speakers this morning. So it was always intended that economic development be done independently of council, not only so that businesses could determine their own destiny, but so that we could leverage the funding that's available, because an independent entity is able to bring in funds that council itself cannot tap into. And so it's really important that we're able to do that, because there's a lot of work needs to be done here. There's huge potential for Kapiti in terms of our economic development. It just needs coordination. We have a lot of businesses, as we've heard, that are 1, 2 or 3 people. They need support. They find it really difficult to work on their own. And it's through bringing them together in clusters and providing support systems that we enable them to grow. And that leads on to jobs for our young people, to greater economic prosperity, to businesses wanting to come and base themselves here, to this being a great place to live. And that in turn, with that growth, reduces the demand, I guess, on our current ratepayers. It brings more ratepayers into our district, so we can spread the load a bit. So to me, it's imperative that we move to this next step. I think it's entirely consistent with the government's approach to move non-core, shall we say, activities outside of council. It takes us a step in that direction. And I would hope that, certainly the central government has made it clear that economic development and GDP growth is their main focus. I cannot see them backing away from regional economic development, and they will need vehicles in which to operationalise that and to implement it. So to me, it's quite clear there is a pathway there forward for us to be working in Kapiti in this economic development space to take advantage of the funding that's available through government, through private investors. And so, I really would commend people to support what has been a long journey. It takes time. I know you're looking for instant results. The EDKB hasn't been around that long. It's just in its startup phase. We've got a lot more work to be done, and we just need your support to take it to the next level to really start getting some traction in this space. So I'll now leave it open to others to debate. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Coe. Councillor Wilson.
Yeah, just to reflect on a couple of things. Comrade Cooper's concerns about the cost to ratepayers, I echo that because we haven't seen the numbers. I haven't seen the numbers. I wanted to see the numbers. But what I did want to say is that the tech cluster, the food and beverage cluster, have been really successful and I think the opportunities there are huge. I think the opportunity in an education cluster, listening to what Danny had to say, and the work that award-winning Work Ready Kapiti have to say, and the work that they're doing is fantastic. So I don't want to be negative about this at all. I think there's loads of opportunities, but I do have some concerns prior, and so I can't support B in the recommendations until we have C. So, and I'm concerned that we've had a couple of times now, we've had wording in the papers like for us to agree in principle, or last time we had endorse. We wanted the councillors to endorse something, which I had no intention of endorsing. And finally we got endorse taken out of. So when we say agreeing in principle or approves in principle, what does that actually mean? I mean, I know what I think it means, but it may mean something else. It may mean there's a green light, go ahead, start doing all the legal paperwork, create this entity, do this thing from which you will never come back. And so that's why I couldn't agree to B until I had assurances around C, and C isn't available at the moment. So we haven't seen that. So but my primary concern is all of the evidence so far that suggests having this independent thing and giving them this independent voice. What are we giving away? And what it appears that we are giving away is we are giving away the rights to our own entity and our own identity. So, for instance, what we've seen evidentially so far of what's been done is that we have now, along with perhaps the Oamaru's, we are now the Capital's Coast, apparently, and Kapiti is now, from what I saw at the tourism launch, where they had the KKK written down there and spelt out, so they're asking Kapiti to endorse that kind of lunacy. Imagine the headline, Kapiti Council endorses KKK concept. Because that's what we're being asked to do. Now, I'm hoping people will revisit that and realise just how crazy that was. And the Capital's Coast, I think, is an equally crazy concept.
So that's off topic, Councillor Wilson. We're talking about if you have a problem with that, you can identify that you have a problem with that particular thing, but we don't want to go into the whys or wherefores of that. What we're doing today is we have 3 recommendations in front of us. We are not debating the identity today. That's not on the table.
No, we're not. What we are debating is the ability for this entity.
Irrelevant.
No, well, okay, but so what we are debating is what abilities are we handing to this organisation? What are we saying, you as an organisation, EDKB, what can you do? So what are we allowing them to do in that space? It would appear that what we are letting them do is rebrand Kapiti in any way they choose. Now, what I'm saying is that the way that they have already chosen is terrible. So how would we, and this is to the concerns that Glenn raised,
Councillor Wilson,
where's the accountability back to council?
I'm calling a point of order that is disrespecting people who are sitting around this council table. I would ask you to look at your language and the way you're talking, please, and continue in a vein that is appropriate for this meeting.
Yeah, this is a political meeting. We are politicians. This is the home of robust debate. If we can't have robust debate, if you want to silence robust debate,
Councillor Wilson, I would encourage you to reread your standing orders around respect, please.
Yeah, I'm very respectful.
And this meeting operates according to those standing orders. We are not a parliament here.
Okay, so in order to, how would I best then explain in a respectful way the feedback I've had from the community about the idea that Kapiti would be, say, and have an organisation that would be endorsing something that goes KKK and Capital's Coast? How do you address that?
You're a man of words. I'm sure you can manage it.
Yeah, and so to the point is, and the point that was raised by Councillor Cooper, is what accountability will there be back to ratepayers once you cut this thing loose, if that's what you do. So if they decided, for instance, to brand us as whatever, I can't imagine anything worse than what they're already branding us as, but if they did come up with something worse, what are we as a council and custodians of the Kapiti name, what are we able to do about it? So that's a question. People may or may, it's a rhetorical question because I don't think what we're signing off here is anything we like. That they'll be able to do anything they like because we are effectively Kotahi Board will actually become an SPV itself. That's effectively what it is. My argument is that because they will become a completely separate legal entity.
I'd ask you to
own.
wrap up your contribution to debate soon, please, Nigel.
So the question is, do we really need an EDKB? And my argument is that no, we don't, because all of this could be done in-house.
Yeah, so I'll contribute to debate now, and I'll be arguing in favour of these recommendations. So we are moving towards a level of independence. If we feel comfortable with that, we'll vote for these recommendations. If we don't, we can vote against. It's as simple as that. As for not having B before C or any of that, what B allows us to do is say yes, move forward. After that, we will be discussing details of the trust. We are giving the green light today. If you don't want to give the green light to creating a trust which will have a level of independence and autonomy, then vote against the recommendations. I, for one, feel very comfortable doing this. It's exactly what we've been talking about doing as a council. It allows the trust, who, let's face it, understand their own business community better than we do, to make decisions. And it also allows them to attract external funding, which is so important. We're desperate to find ways to attract funding and pay for things other than through rates. We'll still have an opportunity further down the track, if we're not happy with the details of the trust deed, to stop this if we want to. But today what we're doing is saying, yes, we think this is a good idea, and supporting in principle means that we're not saying, okay, come back with a trust deed and we'll see how we feel at that point after a whole lot of effort and expenditure. What we're saying is, yes, we think it's a good idea to set up a trust, go away, do the work, we'll have a look at the details later, and then we'll endorse it at that point. Unless there's something really unexpected that happens in the interim, or there are elements of that trust deed that we're not happy with. So yes, we are endorsing going ahead today. And people are free to either approve that or not. Okay, who's next? Lawrence Kirby.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This is an exciting report, I think, for the future of our district. I don't think any of us will argue with the fact that we need strong economies, we need strong businesses, we need employment opportunities. We need more people to live and work in the same area, both for the good of our community and the broader well-being of our community, but also because it brings us together as a community. I just want to stand on this one and just go, this is part of our top 10 priorities as councillors, that we support economic development, that we support the EDKB and we work with them. The recommendation from our staff and the EDKB is that we move forward with this proposed structure and model and bring it forward. And it is one of our top 10 priorities as councillors, and I will remind the table that we agreed to those and just recently again re-agreed to this year's ones, year 2. The other thing I will argue back on is 14th of November 2023, we were given a briefing in the long-term plan process which outlined exactly what money was spent in economic development and how much this work was going to cost us. It is in our files and we can look for it if we want to. I would encourage councillors around the table to have a look at that briefing paper, and it gives you exactly what the money that is being spent and where it is going to. Some of that money was requested by this table to be made available in the long-term plan budgets for economic development and for this work. And staff have worked with us in that space to ensure money was available for that. In fact, it totals about $1.463 million. So it's a significant part of our long-term plan conversations. Council's role, I think, is always to convene, to enable and to empower our communities to do what they do. I see this particular model, and I'll be interested to the further debate around the trust deed and the information that's in it and the purposes of what we set up, and I look forward to those conversations. But council is always about empowering our community to thrive, and I think that needs to stay at the top of our mind. If we want to continue to control stuff that goes on within our community, then I think we're actually disempowering our community by wanting control. If there is accountability around our money, yes, accountability is important. But if we're wanting to empower and release our community to thrive, then at some point we've got to enable them to do that. And I can see that this has the potential to do that. The devil, though, is in the detail, and I look forward to those conversations as we move forward. Thank you.
Kim. Kim Tahiwi.
Kia ora. So I am part of the Economic Development Board, just full disclosure. And just about when I hear things like it's very hard to gauge the actual dollar value of return when you're doing things like this. The whole point is that what we're doing is we're trying, the last couple of years, and all of us that sit on that panel would like things to go faster, without a doubt, because we all have a business background and we just want to assess something, get it done and get it working. However, when you're dealing with the community, it's about building relationships. And that's what the last couple of years has been about, building those relationships. And we've seen the success of the clusters, and the success of them is because we've built the relationships. And they will inevitably grow on their own. And that's the ideal. The ideal is that this ecosystem functions without us and we don't have to keep inputting into it. So if I think about, in particular, the regen horticulture, and that's based around iwi and hapu. So Māori are very slow to engage because there's a long-standing history of mistrust. And then I think about industry. Industry are very slow to engage with council is involved, wrongly or rightly. That's just the way it is. So having an independent board that they can build a relationship and trust and rely on is key to that. It also helps the council and the EDKB, not the EDKB, the Economic Development Team and council, because then they get a direct insight into what's happening in industry without being intrusive, and without the industry feeling like they're being intrusive. So that, for me, that is the benefit of this independent trust. Obviously, you have your financial gains that will come. If you're hoping for, we did this and it raised GDP 5%, that's never going to happen because it's all about numbers. There's never going to be a direct correlation. So what we can guarantee, though, is if we do nothing, we will go nowhere. So that's the alternative. I don't have a vote at the council table, so this is just me supporting it, even though I am a member of the board, which seems quite odd, but yes, that's my take on it.
Yeah, the same way we have community boards sitting at the table and fighting from their corner as well. Councillor Cooper.
Yes, so I think for me this is fundamentally whether economic development is core business for our ratepayers. And we're currently in a rates affordability crisis and will continue to be so into the future, with our long-term plan pretty much doubling our rates in 10 years. I think we need to look at every cent that goes out of this building and what it returns to our ratepayers. And I don't know for the solo parent sitting in Otaki, or the retiree sitting in Paikok, or for that matter the garage owner sitting in Waikanae what benefit they are getting out of this work. And in fact, I don't think anyone can tell us that. Central government has identified a rates affordability issue and clearly say that councils must rate money on core function, get back to basics and doing the basics well. And that is spending ratepayers' money on infrastructure and services. And I know that we've heard that this potentially is, but they've signalled very strongly to councils that the nice-to-haves are not actually core function for our ratepayers. And I don't believe this is a core function. I believe this is a nice-to-have, and the nice-to-haves are over. Or are they? Suspect they're not. So if I asked the general ratepayer out there what they think, I think I know what they'd say. I'm very well connected into a lot of businesses across the coast, and those businesses I speak to see no value whatsoever from this rating. Others will speak to businesses who may see value. But I think as elected members, we must listen to the direction of central government and our ratepayers and ensure we are responsible and focus on core business. In my view, simply is economic development is not one of those. With the changes in the Local Government Act explicitly removing economic development as a legislative requirement of council, we as a council have not had an opportunity to discuss the implications of those aforementioned changes in legislation. And okay, they might not be locked through and done yet, but they're going to be. It's got support from the coalition, so we will be dealing with a change to our four well-beings that was legislatively required to do, that is now not. And what effect will that have on this organisation? We haven't been able to explore that and to push this through prior to that, I think is somewhat remiss. And until we've had those conversations, I think we should tie-ho on creating a trust. So there are not only funding and cost implications to ratepayers, but I actually have serious concerns about transparency. If the EDKB Trust are a complete failure, as they were in the support of the Gateway and the Te Uri project, and the disdain that was apparent for the Whale Song project, what recourse will ratepayers actually have to the funding that they are using to support this trust? I would say that they'll have no transparency, no accountability, and certainly the trust will be untouchable in terms of answering back to the ratepayers. So we should not lock this up so it's untouchable. We should keep control of it at least until we've had the appropriate discussions about economic development in its entirety. And not do so, in my view, is not responsible back to the ratepayers. So I won't be supporting this. Thank you.
Councillor Halliday.
Thank you, through Madam Chair. Just for clarity, the four well-beings are still in legislation. They have not been removed. And I say that because I personally am tired of the flip-flopping that we have to react to by central government or even central government comments. And point in case, Three Waters, what a kerfuffle that's been. One government comes in, another government comes in.
Stick
Bang,
to the topic,
bang, bang.
please, Councillor Halliday, though I do agree with you.
Sorry?
Stick to the topic, please.
Oh, yeah, I'm just responding
Valid
to
as your
some of the other
points may
comments
be.
made by some things. We get that option in debate. So, look, I've been involved in this process now with regards to the EDKB for about 7 or 8 years. The reason I point that out is because this process started in the community. Council didn't want it, didn't want to have any part of this, okay? But that's why I got involved in KEDA, okay, is that we spent a substantial effort and time ensuring that this came to the council table. One of the reasons I stood for election was to ensure that it got landed. And that's what we achieved in the last triennium. It was a bit hard, but that's what we achieved in the last triennium. So this is an ongoing process. This is not something that's just popped up out of the ground over the last couple of years. It took 4 years to land, and it's taken 3 years to get moving. And this is the point. It's in its infancy, and it is starting to now flex. This has always been the pathway of the EDKB. The independence aspect of it was a clear point right from the beginning, and the evolving of this was very, very clear right from the beginning. So I get a little bit annoyed when I hear this being thrown back into the process as now. But I also respect that that's why we have a democratic process, and that's why we have our elected members around the table, so that we have this robust conversation. I think it's fantastic in seeing the partnerships and the involvement of the business community that is evolving. The fact that we had the business leaders here today talking about how it's progressing in a very, very positive way. Talking last night at the community awards, Work Ready Kapiti, that's evolving with regards to now getting funding from the Ministry of Social Development with regards to catching those hard-to-get youth and leading them into employment. Mills Albert, the relationship that's evolved with regards to a partnership with regards to evolving employment in our area and training in our area. All good stuff heading in the right direction. I don't really need to say anything more than that. One thing I will note is a comment around point B, is that as I said, this has always been the pathway. This is not something that's just cropped up. And I'm quite thankful that we are now getting a lot of clarity about the direction we're heading in and what that is involving. Yes, we're not making a specific decision. What we've been informed of is the pathway leading through decisions a bit further down. But this is not a decision we're making now. We've made decisions back here that have led us to this point, and we're now being informed of how the next phase is going to work, and then we'll make decisions there. Pointing with regards to the branding, yep, look, I don't think that was necessarily the best process, but that's just a small part of what's going on. And I would also note that Council took note of what Council has said, and that process has been stopped and is currently being relooked at. There'll be a process around that. I'm not saying it's going to get changed or anything like that, but we expressed our concerns, and for me, the difference between this triennium and last triennium, we were listened to, and things are being done about it, and I applaud that. This is about evolving. It's always been the plan, and appreciating that vision and hard work is being fulfilled. So I'm very supportive of this. We'll be supporting the motion and look forward to contributing to the work with regards to how this is all going to work with regards to the various levels that we're going to see. And I'm absolutely stoked to see where we're at.
I'd ask any further speakers to try and keep it reasonably brief. We are running way over time today, and we have briefings this afternoon, so we need to finish this meeting on time. Well, at least less than an hour and a half late. Mr. Mansell.
I can be very quick. This was funded from a targeted rate, so the solo mother and Otiki probably isn't contributing. It needs to be spent on what it was collected for, which is business expansion, business development. There's still time to stop it. This is just pushing it on to the next stage. There's still time to stop it if the government do the flip-flop and tell us we're not allowed to talk about this anymore. And just my last point is that business don't really want council involved with them, because council laws, and former councillors, not the current ones of course, are all bloody incompetent. Sorry, no.
In the business space.
In the business space, they're very good at other things, but in the business space, they wouldn't feature. So, business want council out. An ideal way is through this trust. I don't get a vote, but if I did, I would certainly support it. Let's move it forward. Let's get it going. Thanks.
Councillor
I'll be
Warwick.
quick. I think the trust that we're putting in place is a way of getting back to what is core business, because it's costing us a lot to support our community. So we've got our Trails Trust, Housing Trust, this trust, and I trust the people around the table who are actually bringing this to us and asking us to support it. Liz, Kim, Neil, and our staff because they are not doing it to rip us off or rip ratepayers off, I don't believe. And I think if you actually ask the community what they do want, they want jobs. And they want jobs locally. So we have to support our businesses.
Mr. Larissy.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I've been really supportive of this in principle from the start. I sat in a number of rooms where it was presented and was always very vocally supportive, so it's good to see it moving forward. Very sympathetic to the views from Councillor Cooper, and I think that those questions really needed to be asked, particularly given what we're hearing from central government at the moment. So I think we need to keep that in mind. Independence and accountability are the two things that are really sticking at me through this conversation. Yes, business wants this to be independent, and that makes me wonder why council has a seat, whether it's a councillor or whether it's a council appointee, call it what you like, but why does council have a seat on what should be an independent trust? So it's not entirely independent in my view. Accountability, though, is still at stake, whether it's independent or not. We need to build some clear accountability measures into the setup. I've got some questions about accountability so far. I'm here for Raumati today, so I'll use the example of Raumati Village Business Association, where $10,000 was spent on a retail plan, a retail strategy. Further money was pumped into the setting up of a website, which hasn't seen the light of day. And so I guess I'd put the question to those involved. One, is that work continuing? And two, if it's not, why have we spent money on something that isn't going forward? If we can't be accountability on minor things like that, can we trust that there's going to be accountability on bigger issues? So I think we need to have those built in from the start, and they need to be clear. Thank you.
I'll go to Councillor Coe for a right of reply.
Thank you, everybody, for your contribution this morning. I think, we need to really stop and think about what kind of community we want to live in here. Do we want a community where jobs are available for our young people, where there is economic prosperity? And if so, how do we make that happen? Does council have a role in that or not? If council wants to take ownership of it, then they need to fund it. Is it more appropriate, though, to push that back out to the community, to allow things to happen that are led by the business community, for the business community, and that bring in other sources of funding? So, we've heard Councillor Wilson seems to have a view that he wants to have total control over economic development and do that presumably at the ratepayer's expense. So, on the other hand, we've heard Councillor Cooper say this is non-core business. And we need to reduce the burden on the ratepayer. To me, this does do exactly that. It reduces the burden on the ratepayer. And if we go down this path, it doesn't preclude any future changes that come about as a result of what central government does. I think we're moving down a pathway that I believe central government would approve of. I guess the only debate further down the track is to what extent council is able to provide funding for this independent group. And it may be that there are some restrictions around that. But that means that just puts the onus on the EDKB in its future form to find alternative sources of funding and to continue the fabulous work that it's doing. So to me, there's no downside in going ahead with what we've proposed today. We're asking you to agree in principle to moving to the next stage, which is to look at the documentation, to bring it back to the table for final sign-off. So there are no absolute final commitments being made today, just a willingness to proceed to the next stage, to look at the detail, to look at what accountabilities can be put in place along with the independence and the funding that is provided from council to this independent group. So to me, the benefits far outweigh any costs at this point. And I think, coming back to the solo mothers, they will see a benefit through economic growth and job opportunities. Everybody stands to benefit from economic development, not just businesses. This is for the community's benefit, not just for the benefit of the community. And I think it would be a very sad day if we didn't, support this initiative that has so many tangible benefits. So, I urge you to vote in favour of these 3 recommendations. Thank you.
Okay, I'll now put them to the vote. All in favour, please say aye. Aye. Against? That's carried. Okay, we want a division. Division has been called. Actually, just while we just quiet, please, so Sean can focus on that.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So, if we could go, all those in favour, please raise your hand. So, Mayor Holborough, Deputy Mayor Kirby, Councillor Coe, Councillor Hanford, Councillor Spires, Councillor Halliday, Councillor Pravanov, Councillor Coford and Councillor Warwick. Those against, Councillor Cooper and Councillor Wilson.
Thank you. And thank you, Neil, so much for coming along today. We didn't have much debate around A, but I'm sure we all acknowledge the progress made on the implementation. And wonderful, the group of people you brought here today. Just really good to hear it from those who really know their areas, what a benefit has been brought to the community. So we look forward to next steps on this now that we've got the green light, and we'll see you next time. Thank you. Thanks to the team as well. We shall now take a 10-minute break.
The pen didn't work.
It's not hard to remember.
No.
That's all we need to know.
That's right. Thank you all. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe somebody should tell Neil that.